This is ConciseBaba Metziah, Daf Lamed Gimel, as we pick it up on the bottom of Lamed Beis, Baruch Hashem. Another incredible day in the world of Daf, as B'siyata D'Shemaya will be wrapping up the second parak, this famous parak of Elam Metzias, and Mirza Hashem. So we are 5 lines from the bottom of Lamed Beis, and we're in the middle of a lengthy discussion trying to figure out whether Tsar Bale Chaim is a din d'oraisa or a din d'rabbanan. Is the concern that we have towards animals and the ensuring that they are not in pain, is that a biblical concern or is that a rabbinic concern? So says the Gemara, let's try again. Tashema, 5 lines from the bottom. Oyev lifraik v'soyne litoin. There's 2 animals that need your help. Your animal that you love, the owner that you love, needs to be unloaded, and your enemy as an animal needs to be loaded. Says the Raisa Mitzvah B'Soyne, you should help the one you do not like first. Why? Kidei Lokov Es Yitzray, to make your Yitzhara subordinate, to go against your grain, to go against your midas. You don't like him, go particularly help him. Beautiful vart, but says the Gemara, what does that prove? If the din of Sabbath Chaim was a din deraisa, then what? That should be more important than everything else. If it's a deraisa, very nice. You want to ordinate Yitzhara. Very nice that you want to, try to get over the fact you don't like this person. But the animal in pain, the animal to unload is in pain. And it's a din deraisa. This would seemingly prove that it's a din derabanan. Says the Gemara, no raya filoachi k'dei lokov es yitzar adif. And we see the incredible power of needing to tame our yitzhara, that it's even more important than a din deraisa. So tries again, Tashema. 3 lines from the bottom. Soine shamru. In the aforementioned Brisa, when we said this one you do not like is Soine Yisrael. Is he Yid? V'loi Soine Akam, and not a guy. So says the Gemara, 1 second. If this din of Sar B'Lechaim is din deraisa, Mali Soine Yisrael, Mali Soine Akam. What's the difference? Either way, we're only worrying about the animal. Says the Gemara, Mi Savris, Asoine de Krakai, Asoine de Masnisan Kai. We're not talking about the pasuk, but rather, we're not talking about the pasuk that says you have to unload the animal. But rather, we're talking about the Brisa that we just quoted. Tashema continues the Gemara to try to continuously prove as we turn over to Lamed Gimel Amid Aleph. Says the Brisa, Roives V'loi Ravson. And we said you have to unload an animal. Prika, that's when it's roives, it's lying down under its burden. V'loi Ravson, and not an animal that on its own, this is what it habitually does. Roives, it's crushed under its burden. V'loi oimi tachas masoi. Not if it's standing, not if it's standing. Tachas masoi, underneath its burden. V'loi mifurak, but not if the burden is next to it. You have to put it back on. Tachas masai, under the burden. Masai shiachal lamid by. Only a burden that it normally could carry. So says the Gemara, let's prove 3 lines from the top. Lamed Gimel Amid Aleph. If you're going to tell me that Tsar B'Lechaim is in deraisa, Mali Roivetz, Mali Ravsa, and Mali Oimed, what's the difference if the animal lies down normally, doesn't lie down normally, is standing? At the end of the day, the animal's in pain. Answers the Gemara, Hamani, Rav Yosef Glilihi, De'amar Sar B'Lechaim D'Rabbanan. So after going back and forth and seemingly having a proof that it's a din D'Rabbanan, says the Gemara, but guess what? Maybe it's just a din of Rav Yosef Glili who holds it's D'Rabbanan, and therefore it doesn't prove anything according to the sheet of the Chachamim. Says the Gemara, Hachanami Mistavra. Lamaisa, this is logical. Diktani tachas masai, masai shechalamid boy, mansham slay, dislay high svara. Who holds that svara of a masai shechalamid boy? Says the Gemara, Rav Yosef Glili, Shema mi no. Says Gemara, okay, very good. So we have a raya that Rav Yosef Glili. But I asked the Gemara, Mimot is Mukmis law, Rav Yosef Glili, Vakatani Seifa. What does the Seifa say? Tachas Masai, V'loi Mefayrak. The Seifa said has to be underneath its load and not that the load is next it. My loy mafarak, what does that mean? Unloaded at all, except hakim takim imai. What do you mean? We have another policy that you have to clearly help him, even to load him up. The Bryce needs to say you don't have to help an animal as such, an animal with the load that's next to it, bechinam for free, ela bischar. Rather, you can take money for it. Of course, this brings us back to what we learned yesterday, the chilik between loading and unloading. The loading, one could demand cash for. And says the Gemara, who was that man damer man shamas lei dislei haisvara? Rabbanon. Who is Rabbanon that differentiated between loading and unloading regarding payment? So how can you tell me, Rav Yosef Glili, if this detail about payment is the sheet of the Rabbanon? Answers the Gemara Leilam Rav Yosef Glili Ubetina Savlik Rabbanon regarding loading it up. This brisa holds like the Rabbanon. Tanu Rabbanon, wrapping up the first part of the shir, which is really the end of the previous shir, which is this sugya of loading, unloading. Quotes the Raisa. Ki sira. When you see an animal lying down under its burning yachla filu meru chayk, I would think even if you see it from very far, you have to go and help the animal. Tamaleimar kisifke when you walk into it. Eat kisifke when you meet the animal. Yachal pigia mamish only if you mamish bump into the animal. Tamaleimar kitera. Vezi riya sheishba pigia. What is this referring to? Shirachachamim echa misheva umechsa b'mil. Explains the Chachamim, you know what this means? 1 in 7 1/2 parts of a mil, which is huris. Tana Maidaimayad Parsam Rachana Vanaitel Schar. So number 1 is how far can you be? You have to be within a ris. And number 2 is you walk along the animal for a parsa to make sure it doesn't fall off. Rabbi Rachana teaches, but Naitel Schar, similar to taking the reward for loading up the animal, you could also do the same for walking when you walk with the animal to make sure that it stays steady. Says the Mishnah on the bottom half of Lamed Gimel, Amid Aleph, the final Mishnah of this parak. Avedasai v'avedas aviv. We have a clash. We have to figure out what should one do. We have 2 items that one is trying to save. And the question is, who comes first? You have your own lost object and your father's lost object. Avedasai kaidemis. Avedasai v'avedas rabbi. Again, shaloi kaidem. Then shaloi kaidem. Then again, his own object comes first. Avidas aviv, avidas rabbi. So part A of the Mishnah is that your own object wins out. Now, what happens if we don't have your object? You have your father versus your Rebbe, then shal rabbi kademis. Why? Says the Mishnah, your father brought you to this world. But continues the Mishnah that v'mavav chacham, if your father's Talmid Chacham and he taught you Torah, then shall aviv kaidem. Hayaviv rabbi naisin masai. Your father and your Rebbe is carrying a package. Min yechashel rabbi v'acham min yechashel aviv. First help the Rebbe, then ask your father. Hayaviv rabbi beis hashevi in jail. Poides rabbi v'acham poides aviv. First you ransom the father, then the Rebbe, then the father. V'mavav chacham. Again, poides aviv v'acham poides rabbi. If the father's Talmid Chacham, he taught you Torah, then the father will indeed come first. Says the Gemara, immediately from where do we know these dinim? Amar Rav Yehuda Amarav teaches Rav Yehuda Amarav, or 5 lines into the very wide lines of Lamed Gimel Amar Aleph. Says Rav Yehuda Amarav Amar Kra Efes ki lo yebecha evyoin. Efes, when there should be no one amongst you that is poor. What do we learn out from this pasuk? Shelcha kaidem the shel kol adam. Amar Rav Yehuda Amarav and teaches Rav Yehuda Amarav. Kol makayim ba'atzmai soif bali deikach. Will come to that which he needs. Says Rav Yehuda Amarav, even though it's true you should worry about yourself first, lehalacha, but if you do that, it could cause one to be in a needy situation that others will have to help him. which of course would basically open up the window that you would be able to help the father, the Rebbe, etc. Carrying a package on Rabban and Rabbu Shamdei Chachma. Rabbi Shamdil Nikra. So it would be a Rebbe that taught you Gemara, Chacham, and not one that just taught you Mishnah. Divi Rebbe Meir. V'loy Rabbi Shalom de Mikra u'Mishnah Divrei Meir Chumash and Mishnayos. If you doimer Kol Sharayv Chachmas Eimenu has to do with who your majority of Torah has learned from. Rabbi Yossi Amar Afilu Heir Einav El Mishnah Achas Zeh Hu Rabbi. So you one Mishnah, he's your Rabbi. Amar Rava Kigoin, for example. Rav Zchaira Dazman, he explained to me Zuma Listron, saying to the Svara of the Zuma, the froth that's the top of a pot, Listron. And he considered him a Rebbe based on that. Shmuel Karamani LA, Shmuel, even Torkriya, Anahume Rabbanan, Tasre Echad Yer Lamas Hashechi Vechad Poteach. A Talmud that taught him one din, that was enough for Shmuel to Torkriya when that Talmud was Nifter. Vechad Poteach Kivin. Amar Ula, teaches Ula, furthering the previous discussion. Talmidei Chachamim shebeBavel oimdin zebev neizev current zelze. Talmidei Chachamim Bavel stand for one another, giving them kavod as well as tirkriya for one another. Linyan aveda b'makim aviv. With regarding an aveda in the place of his father, einal chayzrin, they do not return. Elo l'Rabbi Muvak. Not like the Mishnah said any Rebbe, but only a Rabbi Muvak, the Rebbe that one learned the bulk of the Torah from. So Kabai Minei Rav Chisda Rav Huna. Talmud v'tzarich le Rabbi Mai. What is the story of a Talmud that he needs his Rebbe? And he has, they finds two objects, the fathers and the Rebbes. Amr le Chisda loiser rechnalach. Chisda, I don't need you. At sarachta li ad arba'in shnein. You needed me for even 40 years. And they were upset at each other, as each one said, Rav Huna, Rav Chisda, they didn't need each other. And of course, as Gedalim have it, each one feels bad that he upsets the other. So Rav Chisda sat in 40 Tainesim because Rav Huna felt bad. Yasser Rav Huna, Arba'in Tainisa, Misham Dechashtei, Lirav Chisda. Okay, so says the Gemara, let's go back. Now let's delve into Lamaisa, whom is considered a Rebbe. Itmar. Rav Yitzvar Yisrael, Rav Yechon Halacha, Ki Rav Yehuda, Rav Huna, Rav Shiz Halacha, Ki Rav Yosi. So we have Machlekes, whether Psak Halacha is like Rav Yehuda, whether Psak Halacha is like Rav Yosi. It says the Gemara, really, Rav Yehuda said that what? You have to have Rav Chachma, and Rav Yosi said, even if you just taught him one Mishnah. So says the Gemara, Mi Amar Rav Yechon Hachi. Does Rav Yechon really say, like we just said, like Rav Yehuda, you have to learn Rav Chachma? Hachi, Amar Rav Yechon Hachi Sa Mishnah, Tanan, Rav Shalom de Chachma, my Chachma, Rav Chachma Sai. Says the Gemara, no, it's not a Kash Lam Mishnah, because it says Chachma, and refers to Rav. Tana Rabbana, no, he's Kima Mikra, Mida Venai Mida. Says the Braisa, one who learned Chumash is a Midah, but it's not a complete Midah. Why? Because Mishnayis and Gemara is better. Be Mishnah, so who learns Mishnah, Midah v'naydel Gemara. Ein l'cha Midah gedayla mizu. And of course, that's the reason why we're all sitting here learning Gemara together. Ula'olam havei rotz leMishnah yoser minay Gemara. But run to Mishnah more than Gemara. Now, the obvious Kasha says the Gemara, 2 lines on the bottom. Hagufa Kasha, what you just said makes no sense. Amr Gemara ein l'chamida kedai lemizu v'ad amr l'maviratz leMishnah yosef and Gemara. Amar Rav Yechanan. As we turn over to Lamid Gimel Lamid Beis Bimei Rabbi Nishnes Mishnah Zu. The days of Rabbi, this Mishnah was taught, and in truth, in times of Rabbi, it was more important to learn Gemara than Mishnah. Whereas then what happened? Shavku kuli almastis and vaslavasa gemara. Hadar darshu lolim the mishnah yoser min gemara. So different times, periods, at times that everyone was learning Gemara, it was important to emphasize the critical necessity of Mishnayis. At a time that everyone was learning Mishnayis, they had emphasized the limud of Gemara. Says the Gemara, my drush. What is this drush that they had? 4 lines down, Lamid Gimel, Lamid Beis. That Gemara is more important. What is the meaning of the pasuk? Haged la'amei pisham. Tell my nation of their pshayim, of their aviris. Ulebeis Yaakov chatoisam. Haged la'amei pisham. What does that mean? Chachamim sheshkagas asam kizoynos. Their mistakes are like willful aviris, because they should have done better. Ulebeis Yaakov chatoisam la'amei arshat zayim asam kishkagos. Vainu did tanan. And this is the meaning of the Mishnah of Yudamer Avizar, B'Talmud Avizahir, B'Talmud, why Shigas Talmud Oile Zadain. That a Shagye can become into a Zadain. Darsh Avidu Ravilai, Maidach say what is the meaning of the Pasuk, Shimu Dvar Hashem. Listen to the word of Hashem, Acharedim, El Davarai, those who are shaking literally at his words. What does that mean? Elu Talmidi Chachamim. What does it mean to be Charedim El Davarai? These are the Talmidei Chachamim. Amru Achechem. The pasuk that says your brothers, Elu Bali Mikra. Soinechem, your enemies, Elu Bali Mishnah. Minadechem, those who are nidoi, those who cast you away, Elu Amei Haaretz. Shema Taimar, maybe you'll say, Pasuk Svaram, Ubatal Sikuyam. Maybe you'll say that their hope is lost and their prospects no longer. They're not going to be around to the Zman Mashiach. Talmud Leimar b'sim chaschem. Shem Tarmi Yisrael Yavoishu. Talmud Leimar v'hem Yavoishu. Of the Chavim Yavoishu. V'Yisrael Yismachu. V'Yisrael Yismachu. And Klal Yisrael will rejoice. Of course, with the coming of Mashiach. Hadron Aloch Elu Metziah. Psiyata Deshmaya. As we finish every parak, we remind ourselves how quickly it flies by, which of course just brings us to the critical importance of Chazara. And with that, we start the third parak. Another very famous parak. Many people start learning Gemara with the second parak, the third parak. One who gives to his friend as a pikadain, an animal or utensils. And they were stolen or lost. Shilem. And then the Shaimer says, was stolen or lost. But the Shaimer doesn't want to make a shvuah. So Shilem l'ratzali shava. The Shomer is allowed to pay and not swear that what happened. Because normally the Shemer the unpaid watchman swears and goes out. He didn't want to swear, so he could pay. Matzah ganif. So now if the ganif is found, and of course it's reminiscent of so many Gemaras Baba Metziah, Mesham Tashlu Me Kefel, the ganif has to pay. So to whom is the payment going to? To the Shomer, because he paid. But let's say the Shomer swore. He swore that it was stolen or lost, and therefore he's potter. And now the be mishalim the bala bikadon. So to he who owns the item, if the shomer paid for the item, then he's considered the bailim. If not, it goes back to the original bailim, and that's who the ganaf has to either pay kefil or daled vehei for. Says the Gemara. Let's just begin the next sugya. Lama li lemiste behema v'lam li lemiste kilim. Why did the Mishnah have to give both cases? And the Gemara explains, Shricha Dita Behema, Avamina Behema, who demakni like Fela, Shem the Nafesh Tircha. Behema, there was a lot of bother dealing with the item, Laluya Lafuke, to bring it in and take it out. And therefore, you would think that's where the Shemer gets the Kefel. Aval Kelim Nafesh Tirchayim Aloi, Makni like Fela. Vita and Kelim Avamina Kelim, who demakni like Fela, Misham, the Nafesh Keflayu. That's what the Mishnah teaches both cases, and in both cases, if the Shomer is Shilem L'Ratza Nishba, he gets the payment of Kefil and Dalad Vehei. I'll pick it up from here, B'siyata Dishmaya.